you can give the floor to one. You can take the floor whenever you want. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And I see Juan. Juan, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Dalila,
yes,
the
I can.
technical moderator. Hi.
So I'm there. They're coming in a minute, but it's all set up. I'm going to fix the lighting. Do you need anything, instructions, additional things? You.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I'm saying that you want me to tell any instructions to the panelists? They're coming. They're on their way. I'm just setting up the lighting.
Okay. Luc, Joanne. Okay. If you can turn off your camera, and once the next session starts, you can turn it back on. Okay, thank you. It's because of the connection problems. Thank you. Dear participants, so we'll have a few minutes late because we're still waiting for the Prime Minister. So if you are a little bit patient, that would be great. Thank you.
I'm going through changes. I'm trying to be patient. Oh Lord, just hear me, 'cause I wanna be free. See, I'm going through changes. I'm trying to be patient. Oh Lord, just hear me, 'cause I wanna be free.
Hello. Hello. All right. All right. All right.
Hello, we're here.
Hello. Once again, how are you? I'm going to do this very simple. Let me teach you a little bit of some Kinyarwanda. Wouldn't you appreciate that? Okay, now this is how we say hi in Kinyarwanda. I'm going to do it with my colleague here. Muraho.
Muraho neza.
Can we just do that? I mean, muraho. Now, that
was okay. That was okay.
That's the kind of muraho you tell someone you're not happy seated with. Now you are telling someone you are happy to actually say hi. Now, muraho.
Muraho neza.
Now let's try it out. Ladies and gentlemen, muraho. Now we are
much
talking.
better. Much better. Much better. Okay. I think we can get started, right?
The energy is right.
Beautiful program. I think that the energy is right. And I know that everyone has just come from a networking session, but you can never have too many connections, right?
I know. Maybe you're seated with someone who wasn't the same person in the morning.
Exactly. So because we want more connections, I want you to go ahead and look to your left, look to your right. And if there's someone that you do not know yet, or if you don't know them well, I want you to go ahead, turn to that person, say what your name is, where you're from, and what's your favorite meal? What's your favorite meal?
Are you asking me?
I want to know what yours is.
Any hot meal.
Any hot meal? Liver? Do you love liver? I don't mind liver either. Okay, my name is Makeda.
And my name is
favorite
Arthur.
meal is not liver.
Okay, what's your favorite meal, by the way, Makeda?
French fries.
French fries in Rwanda. Wow.
So as everyone does this, we're going to give them a few seconds and get started.
We'll be starting in a few.
Be a Jerusalema ikayalami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana Jerusalema ikayalami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze uhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze uhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for networking. Thank you for enjoying some good music. I could see some of you trying to dance. Well, we have a moment for that, don't worry. Before we start, allow me to introduce myself once again. My name is Arthur Musi, and I'm going to be one of the MCs of today.
And my name is Makeda Mahadio. So happy to be here and to meet you all.
All right, I'm going to ask to please have your attention a little bit. Thank you very much, DJ, for the music. Amazing. Now that I have your attention, Muraho. Did you just forget it? Come on, people. Muraho.
Muraho neza.
That is the energy of the youth. Do you have an announcement you want to give them before we continue? Because
we do have quite a few things that we want to say, but if you want to follow along and you're not speaking English, please make sure that you grab one of the translating devices. And
ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to cut you short,
please
but I would love you to please stand up and welcome our guest of honor.
The Right Honorable Prime Minister and the distinguished speakers for the opening ceremony. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. You can now take your seats. Ikaze, muraho neza, mumeze neza. You are welcome. Whatever language you speak, I'm saying you are welcome. My name is Arthur Musi, and I'm the MC of today with my colleague,
Makeda Mahadio. Nice to meet you once again. So we're not here alone today. We're also joined by over 70 hubs around the world who are tuned in to the summit. Right, and these participants, they're as much a part of these events as anyone who's in this room is. So if you are online and you're watching, please go ahead and type in the chat your name, where you're from, and of course, why you decided to join us today.
Now, as you're doing that, I would love to give you something that I've just got to know. As Makeda just mentioned, we've just gathered from all around the world. Now, these are youth envoys from all regions, youth delegates, gender champions from over, listen to this, Makeda, 115 countries are here and online. Amazing. And we are here to do one thing, to engage in decision-taking, in policy-making processes for greater quality and sustainability.
Also to, of course, empower young people with resources and skills for the digital future, to seek how better to protect youth through responsible use of digital technologies, and of course, to participate in shaping the digital future that you want, that I want, that we all want.
Now I think it's...
We should get into the program.
We should get into the program. We've said Murahoneza, we've said how many we are, and I think it's our right time now to listen to our dear speakers. This is my great pleasure to give the floor to the Honorable Minister of Youth and Culture, Rosemary Mbabazi.
Murahoneza. By the time you leave this place, you'll be speaking some few words in Kinyarwanda. Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Republic of Rwanda, Honorable colleague ministers, Generational Connect Vision Board members, UN envoy who is with us remotely, the Director of ITU Telecommunication Development Bureau, dear young people representing 115 countries, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to welcome you to Rwanda. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the first ever Generation Connect Global Youth Summit, as well as welcoming you to Rwanda. Having you all here today is a strong commitment to not only prepare a better digital future for our young people, but also ensuring their active involvement throughout the journey. The theme of this year talks about creating a huge and also gives you huge responsibility, as well as governments, international organizations, and other partners, but most importantly, for you, the young people. Therefore, connecting the unconnected efforts need your strength, your passion, and innovative minds to fully advance this great vision and ensure none is left behind. I know at the end of the third day, we'll be having an action, and the call for action embodies the call to the governments, development partners, the private sector, and the commitment also to provide internet connectivity and make it accessible, available, and affordable through creating enabling environment, as well as providing the prerequisite infrastructure required for the young people to invent and innovate. Now, young people, your generation transitions us from analog to digital era. You are the first tech-savvy generation. Therefore, leverage technology into knowledge acquisition. Pick out what is necessary because there is a lot out there. In addition, leverage on technological advancement to create content. You are the big content consumers, but less content producers or developers. Build also resilient businesses using technology. Also build networks that will turn into markets needed for your innovation. Create innovation that responds and solves solutions of our community. As we have learned from COVID-19, and you can see that it has accelerated adaptation and adaptability, as well as uptake of technology. Research has shown that companies that adapted and responded to solve challenges of the community thrived more during the pandemic. Therefore, while you think about any innovation, think about the people before you think about the profit. Because when people are satisfied with your product, of course, profits will follow. I believe this platform we give you opportunity and give every one of you to grow your network, to grow your aspirations and your talents and innovation beyond the borders. Don't leave here without at least 10 new friends, whether investors, whether partners, or even advisors on what to do next. I want to also ask you to enjoy our hospitality, explore the country beyond the conference setting, and please plan to visit Rwanda once more. I thank you very much and wish you fruitful deliberations.
Thank you so much for those inspiring words, Honorable Minister Mbabazi, and of course for those calls to action. Think about people before profit. I hope everyone has their little notes, and of course make sure that you don't leave without at least 10 new friends, as she said. Now, once again, if anyone needs any kind of translation, there are headsets and the translations are provided in French, Spanish, Russian, Chinese, and Arabic. And if you do use them, please remember to leave your headsets on the seat before leaving the room. One more announcement, make sure that you are wearing your mask. Now, let's go ahead and turn to our next distinguished speaker. I heard some giggles. Okay, now let's go ahead and turn to our next distinguished speaker, Generation Connect Visionaries Board member, Mr. Othman Al-Muammar. Othman, over to you.
The Right Honorable Prime Minister of Rwanda, Your Excellencies, young people of Rwanda and young people of the world, Assalamu alaikum, hello, and of course, Muraho. It is a pleasure to be here today and to speak about the most important resource of the 21st century, and in my opinion, the upcoming centuries after that, which is young people. Now, young people today, just like any generation before them, have to answer and make really tough decisions. These decisions really affect them in all facets of their life, but there are 4 key questions that they will need to answer. The first is, of course, who am I? What is my purpose? The second is related to what will I do? What is my career? And the third is really focused upon the people. Who do I surround myself with? But my favorite, and I think the most difficult question that we will need to ask ourselves is, how will I get there? And now this is where this generation is quite different than the ones before. Because let's face it, young people today, they face challenges from not only education, but employment, from quality of life to all the way to health even. And when you think about the amount of young people today, they comprise about 50% of the world's population. And so the question to this is, how will we get to answer the 3 questions that we have asked earlier? And to be honest, this is what this event is all about. And the ITU team have made this quite easy. Because for those of us who would want to answer, who am I? You have here many experiences from 800+ individuals walking all facets of life. You get to share stories, you get to interact, and you get to learn. For those who want to answer, what will I do? What is my career? You will have multiple networking sessions. There are multiple engagement sessions, and there are many sessions like the ones I will be giving tomorrow, which is on the Global Youth Index, that really will help guide you towards what you will want to do. And for those who want to answer, how will I surround myself and who will I surround myself with? There are, as have been mentioned earlier, people from 115 different countries here. This is a gold mine of young people who are ambitious, who are really pushing to get better. And even though it's in the pandemic now, and the life of a young person has completely shifted, and where the only constant is always change, young people have always stepped up to the challenge. And I would like to end by saying thank you to the ITU team, to the ITU leadership, for really bringing us on the forefront of their decision-making process. I would also like to thank the Generation Connect board members who really gave feedback and worked hand to hand to make this event as good as it can be. And last but not least, I would like to thank young people who showed up here virtually and physically, because you are answering question number 4, which is how will I get there? And you get there by being proactive and being here. And my last thank is to the youth of Rwanda. You have been the most hospitable youth ever. Thank you so much for making this day special. And as I would like to say in my own language, shukran jazilan.
Thank you very much, Otman. And I think we are digesting on those questions. Who are you? What is your career? And for those who made it, thank you. Now, as he mentioned, some of us are here physically, others are here virtually. And that is a sign that we are determined to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome Maria Gabriel, European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education, and Youth. She's going to be giving her message online, and it's going to be a video. Now you can direct all your eyes on screen as she delivers her speech. Thank you.
Dear Minister Ingabir, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear young people, it is a pleasure for me to welcome you to today's Generation Connect Global Youth Summit 2022. I would like to thank Minister Paula Ingabir for the kind invitation for me to address all of you today. Dear Minister, I'm impressed by your work and efforts to make Africa a hub for innovation and digitalization, and I believe it has the potential to be exactly that. You have a strong supporter in me. I'm certain that this summit will give all participants the opportunity to focus on meaningful youth engagement, consultations, empowerment, participation, and calls for action. You will get the chance to brainstorm how technologies can be harnessed to advance progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals, to discuss how the power of technology can change the world, build back better. I believe this is the right place to present the unfolding of the European Year of Youth. Here in front of you, our young innovators, entrepreneurs, and youth leaders. It is a unique opportunity to exchange ideas about the challenges that lay ahead of us and to listen to young people's ideas about how we can overcome those challenges. To listen, but also to give voice. This is precisely the overarching message for the European Year of Youth. Voice your vision. We have recently launched a voice platform through which young people are able, in their own language, to make their voice heard and express themselves on topics that are passionate about. The European Youth Portal is the other place to get involved. Everyone can find information on the latest youth-related initiatives and projects and participate in activities. You can even upload your own events and promote them. I invite you to take a look, see what interests you the most, and organize your own event in which, together with your peers, you can discuss the issues you are passionate about, from the green and digital transition to sustainable development, innovation, and entrepreneurship. In the end, it is all about the connections you make with each other and other young people across the world. And we need to make sure that you have the power to put this engagement to good use, to be able to act, to be empowered. This is why today's summit focuses on the role of technologies. Technology allows us to do more, to go further. It connects us even when we are far. It helps us leverage more weight than we ever could on our own. We need it if we are to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, if we are to make our societies greener, more inclusive, more digital. It is clear we are entering a new era of digitalization. However, new technologies cannot replace people-to-people contact. We have to take into account everyone's needs so that everyone has access to the education they need. To achieve this, we need to work together in partnership to mobilize and share resources, to ensure there is adequate equipment, and to strengthen the connectivity between students, teachers, and schools across the world. We are living in unprecedented times, but only by investing in digital education and skills can we succeed. I strongly urge you to seize the momentum. This is a call for action to you young people to engage, because we need you. We need you to shape together with us the future of the digital transformation. We in turn are here to support you. Thank you. Dear Minister Ingebiel,
Thank
dear
you
ladies and
very, very much. Now, the word youth is being mentioned a lot, and there is one thing I've come to learn from experience. Youth and music is like an official marriage. If you believe that, allow me to welcome Rwanda Ubuhanzi, giving us an amazing rhythm, the official Generation Connect song performed by young Rwanda Ubuhanzi artists. The stage is all yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rwanda Ubuhanzi Band, and I want to ask you all a question. Muraho neza? Muraho neza? Like we are going to sing a song called The Digital Future We Want. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
Across the world, united we stand, united we stand. Across the world, united we stand, united we stand.
Digital opportunities are limited in communities, and this is what we see. Involving youth is the key. Involving youth is the key.
Come on, listen together.
Across the world, united we stand, united we stand.
One more time.
Across the world, united we stand, united we stand.
Yeah, man.
Decision you create affect our state. Together we stand for you to understand. We are the future, yeah. We are the youth. We are the future, yeah. We are the youth, yeah. Across the world, united we stand, united we stand. Across the world, united we stand, united we stand.
Listen, in every sector and every region, you know, educating these young persons is the key to getting the digital versions that we want. So let's sing together and then we'll go clap our hands.
Across the world, united we stand, united we stand.
We can even sing together.
Across the world, united we stand, united.
Let me stop the music a little bit.
Across the world, united we stand. United we stand.
Let me hear you clapping your hands.
Across the world,
Oh,
united we stand. United.
There is a beautiful voice here, sing.
We are, and we are the young voices. We are the younger voices. We are, and we are the young fathers.
Come on! Oh, and 1, 2, 3, go!
Across the world, stand. United we stand. United we stand. United we stand. Across the world. Across the world. Across the world. United we stand. United we stand. Across the world. Across the world. Across the world. United we stand. United we stand. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Murakoze, murakoze.
Yes, let's hear it one more time for our Rwanda Buhanzi.
Oh, wow.
Across the world,
Across the world.
united we stand.
Huh. My singing is below minimum balance.
You know what? They had my back, though.
Oh, they had your
my
back. Oh, yes.
Thank you so much to the Art Rwanda Buhanzi team. And we're now pleased to continue on with our program with a live intervention from Miss Jayatma Wikramanayake. She's the UN Youth Envoy who is at the UNEP Stockholm Plus 50 conference. And she's joining us with a young climate activist, Miss Zie Bastida. Jayatma, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Do you hear us? Can you give me a thumbs up if you hear us? Great. Well, muraho, everyone. Greetings from Stockholm. It's great to connect with you here from Sweden, Generation Connect Summit. So we are connecting from a different continent, and that speaks to the value and impact of connectivity that you will be discussing in the coming days at the Generation Connect Youth Summit. And I'm so proud to be here as a member of the Generation Connect Visionaries Board, and I thank ITU for the invitation to be here. Now, just like Shea and I'm sure many of you have had the privilege to grow up as digital natives, and many of us in our maybe short lifetime so far have used digital technologies for advocacy, for activism, and to make our voices heard. And I think many of the advances that we see today in the climate justice movement, in human rights movements, in the gender equality movement is because young people have been able to adapt and innovate to the digital technologies and make their voices louder and stronger. But we all know that it's not the same for every young person everywhere. Not everyone is connected the same way. Not everyone is safe when they connect to digital technologies. For an example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, about 1.5 billion children and young people lost access to education. We were talking about digital schooling, online schooling, but about 2.2 billion children and young people around the world do not have an internet connection at home as we speak. So we are leaving so many children and young people behind who are not as connected as we are. Even if they are connected to the internet or to digital technologies, especially young women and girls, young LGBTIQ people face a lot of violence and stigma in online spaces. So we have to make sure that digital spaces, internet connectivity is not only accessible, but it is also safe for young people to use. Here in Stockholm, many youth climate activists have gathered and they're holding governments accountable to deliver on the commitments that are being made in the Sustainable Development Goals, in the Paris Agreement, and in many international conventions. I think we have to ask for the same accountability for equitable access to technology, for equitable, accessible connection to digital technologies, and safety in digital spaces. So I look forward to the outcomes of the Generation Connect Youth Summit, implementing those outcomes, particularly using the UN Youth Strategy, Youth 2030, that ITU is partnering with us to implement. And I'm wishing you all the best for your deliberations in the coming days. Now, let me pass the floor to my colleague, Zie Bastida. Zie.
Thank you so much for joining in person, and thank you for receiving us online. And for all of those who are online, thank you for listening. You all look like such a strong and energetic group, and thank you for the performance as well. My name is Shia Bastida. I'm one of the youth climate activists present in Stockholm for Stockholm Plus 50, which is a conference where we are talking about what we have done for the past 50 years on biodiversity, on climate justice. And we know that young people are going to be the most affected by the climate crisis and what is coming up in the next years. We heard that young people are 50% of the present, but we are also 100% of the future. That means that we must have a stake in what is decided and what is negotiated in these spaces. So I encourage you that everything that you learn in these coming days, you can use it to reach out to all of your networks, to all of your friends, to your families, and talk about what it means to change the world, what it means to be a youth climate activist, an activist in many other spaces as well, and have a stake on what decisions are being made, because we have the right to be part of that decision making. So I thank you all so much for receiving us, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful coming sessions.
Thank you very much. As you can see, with the help of broadband connectivity, we can easily connect Kigali and Stockholm without a visa. Isn't that amazing? Beautiful indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome Doreen Bogdan Martin, ITU BDT Director, who is behind the First Generation Connect Youth Summit, and we appreciate. Thank you. I love the energy. Thank you very much. The floor is all yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Right Honorable Dr. Edward Hirigente, Prime Minister of the Republic of Rwanda, the Honorable Paula Ingabire, the Minister of ICT and Innovation, and our Chair Designate of the World Telecommunications Development Conference, the Honorable Rosemary Babase, the Minister of Youth and Culture, Maria Gabrielle, the European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education, and Youth, my friend and colleague Jayanthama, who's joining us from Stockholm. So nice to see you. And of course, to our Generation Connect board members, Othman, very inspiring speech and great questions. To our Generation Connect sponsors, of course, I want to recognize our host country, the Republic of Rwanda, who has put this. Thank you, and thank you, Rwanda. You have really done a brilliant job and welcomed us all, and I'm really so very grateful. And of course, to our gold sponsors, let me, of course, recognize them, the Communications and Information Technology Commission of Saudi Arabia, the Telecommunications and Digital Government Regulatory Authority of the UAE, Microsoft, thank you, our silver sponsor, the Autorité de Régulation de Télécommunications of Côte d'Ivoire, thank you, and our Generation Connect sponsor from Amazon, thank you. Of course, welcome and thank you to all of our Generation Connect delegates. It's so wonderful to see you here physically. It's wonderful to also have so many of you with us remotely. Today is the opening of a landmark global summit. It's the first of its kind in the ITU. It's the culmination of a dream that I had when I took office almost 4 years ago as Director of Telecommunications Development at the ITU. Looking across the room at all of you, and it's a packed room for those of you following remotely, with 115 countries we heard represented, different countries, different cultures, it fills me with excitement. It fills me also with hope. Excitement because as young people, I know you get it. You understand technology and what technology can do better than any of us. I know this because I have 4 children of my own about your age. One of them is here. and they constantly astound me with their intuitive grasp of the power of digital platforms and their creativity in harnessing the power for new applications. You also give me hope, because I guess you've noticed that today's world could really use some new ideas. We're living in times of deepening crisis. Inequality gaps are growing. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals are off track. Parts of the world are still struggling with the COVID-19 pandemic. Atmospheric greenhouse gas emissions have hit an all-time high, and regional conflicts have resulted in a record number of displaced people. But let me be clear, we didn't bring you all together here to fix the planet or to solve the problems that have been created by previous generations. But as the first true generation of digital natives, your youthful perspective, combined with your digital skills, offer us a real chance to navigate a new and better path, to break down old barriers, and to finally create that equitable world we want. That's why over the next 3 days, our job as the older generation is to learn to listen. We'll be doing quite a lot of talking over the next 2 weeks at our World Telecommunications Development Conference that follows this summit. But this event is your event. It's your moment in the spotlight. It's your chance to show us what you can do in leading cross-cultural collaboration that is so absolutely vital to forging a different kind of world. You've already shown us how committed you are. That's why you're here in Kigali, having traveled from all parts of the world. We heard the story of the representative from Samoa and the different stops that they made to get here, and you're here. And the rest of you are here virtually. We have 70 official youth summit hubs from research centers, from innovation centers, from universities. Our role is to help you in any way that we can to really create a shared vision and to be able to translate that vision into a concrete call to action, one that we can take forward to our World Telecommunications Development Conference. We want to make sure that your voices are heard loudly and clearly. In the debates that are going to culminate next week in our WTDC, we will have the Kigali Action Plan. We believe that your call to action is an important part of that plan, and we will be working to shape the future digital development agenda for the next 4 years, and we need to hear your voices. So, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage all of you to think creatively, to collaborate, to listen to each other, and to share your experiences and your ideas on how we can be using technology to accelerate progress in critical areas like health, like education, like environmental sustainability, conflict resolution, gender equality, accessibility, and of course, youth opportunities. Right now, the only limit is your imagination. So be bold, be bold. A brighter future for all can start here and now, because we're listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bowden Martin. Of course, it's the culmination and the result of a dream. And I think that's a beautiful example that anything is possible. So thank you once again. And now I have the big honor of welcoming to the stage our guest of honor to formally open the summit. So please give him a warm round of applause as he makes the stage, the Right Honorable Prime Minister of Rwanda, Edouard Ngirente.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Honorable ministers here present, Director of the ITU Telecommunication Development Bureau, United Nations Youth Envoy, Generation Connect Visionaries Board members, young professionals, students, entrepreneurs with us today, in person or virtually. Distinguished guests, a warm welcome to Rwanda. Let me start by congratulating Doreen, the director of the ITU Telecommunication Development Bureau, on this first generation Connect Global Youth Summit, and for choosing to host it here in Kigali, in Rwanda. It is very timely to hold this Youth Summit focusing on shaping a safe, inclusive, and sustainable digital future together, leaving no young people behind, ahead of the World Telecommunication Development Conference. The youth in every part of the world are playing a critical role in bridging the digital divide and achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The digital economy is growing rapidly, with almost every aspect of our lives moving online and massive economic opportunities being created. The COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated the necessity for everyone to embrace the digital era. Therefore, opportunities ahead are indeed promising, but in order to fully tap into these opportunities, we must ensure that no one is left behind. Youth delegates, in order to prepare our young people to fully benefit, we need to first accelerate efforts to address the digital infrastructure divide globally. Studies show that when 95% of the global population may have access to a 3G or 4G mobile broadband network, this access does not necessarily translate to meaningful connectivity or being connected. Similarly, a report measuring how many children and youth have internet access at home revealed that over 2/3 of school-age children between 3 and 17 years, roughly about 1.3 billion people, and 63% of youth aged between 15 and 24 years lack internet access at home. And this is a huge number. Without affordable access to connectivity, majority of young people will not benefit from these opportunities, hence worsening the youth unemployment rates. In Rwanda, we have embraced the use of digital technologies as engine of transformation. Our national strategy for transformation targets to ensure digital literacy for all youth, which means 16 to 30 years by 2024. This will be done through the implementation of a national digital literacy program with the objective of achieving digital literacy of at least 60% among adults by 2024. In addition, affordability remains a barrier to adoption and use of technology, from device affordability to affordability of digital services and data. Distinguished guests, youth delegates, in Rwanda, the government has partnered with the private sector on many initiatives, such as Connect Rwanda, where more than 25,000 smartphones were provided to marginalized communities, such as farmers, community health workers, women traders, and others. However, the gap is still so huge that we cannot do it alone. And here is where the youth have an important role to play. Your ideas, creativity, and energy can contribute to addressing these challenges. For instance, some of our young entrepreneurs in Rwanda are using artificial intelligence to make voice technology easily accessible by collecting voice and text datasets in Kinyarwanda, our national language, to address the barrier that language causes in digital literacy and adoption. I'm sure there are many innovative solutions out there, and our role as stakeholders should be to support nurturing and scaling of these youth-led ventures. Furthermore, we need to continue investing in digital skills for our young people so that they can succeed on the job market. Digital skills are increasingly becoming the footing for all jobs. The good news is that the youth are the most technologically ready and more likely to connect than any other age group. This comes with both opportunities and also responsibilities. Reports indicate that over 200 million jobs in sub-Saharan Africa will require digital skills by 2030. So with 71% of the world youth, meaning age between 15 and 24 years, using the internet, most of these new jobs will be essentially for you, the youth. Beyond the skilling, the ability of innovators and entrepreneurs to access global markets and customers is remarkable with technology. Today, an African fashion brand can easily reach customers in Asia, and Rwandan developers can work for Japanese-based companies while here in Rwanda. As a young person, having a global mindset and learning how to contribute to that global interconnection is key. On the responsibility side, it is important that you are contributing to creating a safer internet and being responsible digital citizens. Today, we all spend more time in the digital world, and cybercrime is on the rise and increasingly more sophisticated. Youth delegates, as governments and multilateral organizations, we're working to put in place the right policies and regulations to keep cyberspace safe, both nationally and internationally. You too can help in keeping the internet safe and positive as you create and consume these technologies by supporting awareness campaigns and building solutions that empower society to safely use technology. As I conclude, I would like to note that the pace of economic development and the prosperity is increasingly linked to technology, creation, and adoption. Therefore, the extent to which our economies can grow will depend on the ability to ensure equitable access to technology, as well as upskilling and reskilling our populations, especially the young people. These are the global opportunities and the challenges that require global cooperation. It's in this spirit that the Generation Connect Global Youth Summit is kicking off, because young people around the world are central to the vision to connect the unconnected. As young people, we call upon you to unite and build a digital economy that is inclusive to every person from any corner around the world. I thank you all for joining us here today, and I wish you a fruitful conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right, Honorable Prime Minister of Rwanda. That was an amazing way of opening. Now, ladies and gentlemen, may I say that officially the summit is open. Amazing. Now, to remember and stamp this moment, I would love to welcome our distinguished speakers to come and take a photo. We are going to be taking a photo here, and then we'll remember this day as the day we opened our beautiful Generation Connect Global Youth Summit for the very, very first time in 2022. Now, as we welcome the distinguished speakers coming on stage to take the picture, the protocol team is going to be helping us. For the rest of us, can we please smile? I love it. We'll also get a time to take our picture in a few. My colleague Max is going to be leading this. Well, I love the smiles on stage and I love the ones in the audience. Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And please join us in thanking the Right Honorable Prime Minister for joining us this afternoon. One more time, give him a big hand as he takes his leave. Once again, thank you so much to our guest of honor as we officially start off this summit. Thank you.
I think I mentioned something that we'll also get a chance of having a picture of our own. Max, don't you think we should also join a picture? What do you think?
I think that'd be a good idea. So if everybody would like to stand up where you are, everybody could stand up where you are. We're going to say we're actually going to be the other side now. So that's it, Sam. We'll put as many lights up as possible, and the photographers come up on stage, please. Okay, well, actually, we're not here at the moment. They've all followed the Prime Minister out, I think. So, okay, bear with us 1 second. That's great. Okay. Well, I could always take one with my iPhone, couldn't I? Okay, 1 second. I'm going to take one anyway. Let's see. Here we go. Hang on. Right. Well, you're looking great. The great thing about an iPhone is got a nice wide angle lens. That's good. Fabulous. Oh, and if you've got signs, raise them up really high in the air as well. That's great. Wonderful. Hang on. Stay nice and still. I'm going to do the panorama shot now. You're looking great. Well done. Okay, thanks everybody. Well done.
All right, thank you very much. As I'm telling you, we are young and beautiful ideas come as we go. Now, my colleague here has a beautiful idea and she just wants us to say Generation Connect. Now, how do we do this?
Right, so I'm gonna take a selfie video. I'll say generation only showing me, and then everyone says connect. Yeah? Sounds good? Okay, let's just try it.
Let's give it a try. Yes, thank you very much for standing. I think we could exercise a little bit. We needed that. Now you go on stage. She's going to be saying generation, and we all say
connect.
All right. You're rehearsing, okay? Let's go. Generation
connect.
Now that was a rehearsal. Now let's do it right away. When I'm also in the picture, you stay there and then we do it. We are young. We do 2 takes. Okay. And 5, 6, 7. Generation
connect.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Amazing. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to welcome you. The summit is now open. There is going to be some conversations, but before we go there, allow me to introduce a video. The video has voices of the youth. Now, these voices are going to set the pace, or can I say, set the tone of the conversations that are going to be happening, which is the first intergenerational dialogue on Engage, Becoming a Young Change Enabler. Now, we will hear from young change makers who have prepared messages and questions to set the tone. Let's follow the video as I come back and tell you what's next. Thank you.
We, youth, we are worth the risk because we are not scared of the digital future. We are not afraid of technological innovation. We are digital natives and we are always willing to embrace the change. We are aware of the urgent need to pursue sustainable connectivity models which are available for everyone and leave no one behind. We will shape the future generation, and we have enough passion and knowledge to take a look at the current global situation, imagine how digital transformation can help society to move towards a more sustainable and inclusive future, and start working on it. So, why should decision makers miss this opportunity to work side by side with us, with youth, for a common goal?
Digital connectivity is important to me in my daily life because it makes my life easy and simple. As a student, I cannot imagine my life without having access to these digital services. Especially in the pandemic, I've realized how important it is to stay connected with others using these online platforms. However, there are many students around the globe who do not have access to these digital services due to limited digital connectivity. How can we as youth enable access to these digital services for youth in remote areas?
Decision makers should consider young people as change enablers because they have a keen sense, different perspectives, and a strong sense of initiative. Young people are in the prime of life and in a very good position to grow and realize their personal value. So it's very important to give them the opportunity to participate in the construction of society. Youth should be given full opportunities to try and make mistakes. So what do you think can be done to better connect young people to decision makers and give them the platform to show their capacities?
For the Youth Summit, I'm really looking forward to achieving 2 main outcomes. First, to consolidate an already amazing virtual network of inspiring young people that got together through the digital. And secondly, to bridge the generation connect with decision makers that can really leverage the youth ideas. Will decision makers be up for the challenge?
Youth are worth the risk because we're innovative. We see the possibility of digital technology. We also learn languages fast, which means that we learn digital languages fast. Youth will also benefit from innovation, which means that we have motivation and incentive to build online. And youth are already proving our ability via collaboration across the world. So knowing that we're worth it, What can adults do to help us build a better world through connectivity?
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, as we mentioned, conversations are going to be happening here. There will be some take homes and you'll get something before it ends. Before we continue, I would love to inform you that we are going to be having our moderators that are taking on this conversation. The conversation is the first intergenerational dialogue on engage, becoming a young change enabler, and we'll also get to know on how can we be part of this. We kept understanding it, we kept listening to the different remarks, but how can we be part of this? I'm not going to be the one taking you through this moment, and allow me to welcome my colleague Bamatho Motsami, who's here with us, and joined by Luke Kavanagh, who's going to be online. They're going to be driving this conversation. Allow me to welcome Bamatho Motsami. I hope I'm mentioning your name right. And if not, please come and do justice yourself. Please, the floor is all yours. Thank you very much. So did I mention it right, or was I close? The floor is all yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bamatho Motsami, Generation Visionaries board member, and I would be co-facilitating the session with my colleague Luke Kavanagh, who's connecting with us all the way from China. Before we begin, I would like to invite my fellow panelists who will be engaging with us online and in person. Sorry, just one moment. I'll be starting with Ms. Joanne O'Riordan, who's a young activist, columnist, and public speaker from Ireland. Her Excellency, Ms. Emma Inamutila Theophilus, Deputy Minister of Ministry of Information, Communications and Technology from Namibia. Kindly join us. Ms. Doreen Bogdan-Martin, BTD Director. Mr. Santiago Reyes Borda, Senior Policy Advisor of International Telecommunications and Internet Policy at the Department of Innovation, Science and Economic Development in Canada. Honorable Minister of ICT and Innovation, Paula Ingabire. Thank you. And Ms. Precious Agacheta, the Youth Engagement Associate from the African Union. Thank you and good afternoon. Mambo, salam alaikum, muribwanji, dumelang, everyone. Just to set the tone from the video that we did see, and understanding that we're not speaking about youth change making, but youth as enablers for change within policy making and youth engagement. We understand not only as youth in decision making processes, or as adults who have also engaged with young people who are placed in decision making processes, the importance of catalyzing youth within reducing social, political inequality and economic inequality, and technology as the backbone for all of this. I would like to deeply engage with you all on the subject matter. Just sorry, one moment. And I would like to also engage with my colleague who's connecting remotely, Luke, to share his perspective and introduce the remote speaker.
Thank you so much, Mabato, and I hope everyone can hear me okay. I'm afraid I can't say welcome or hello in as many impressive languages as you just managed, but it's fantastic to be here with you all virtually today. So we've heard a lot in our opening ceremony just then about letting young people take the lead in important conversations. It's something that has happened for the past year and a half in the Generation Connect program and will continue to happen throughout the course of this summit. Today's intergenerational dialogue will kick things off in a great fashion. You've already been introduced to our amazing panel, and I'm just as excited as you are to hear a bit more from them. In my role as virtual moderator, I'll be moderating the online chat and intervening during the discussion to share some questions that have been raised by our online participants and 70 hubs around the world. So I'd therefore like to invite our online participants to start using the chat, and we look forward to involving all of you throughout the course of this discussion. But without further ado, I'd like to hand over to our first speaker, Ms. Joanne O'Riordan. So you have, of course, already been introduced to her, but just as a reminder, Joanne is a young activist, columnist, and public speaker from Ireland. She's a contributor to the Irish Times and an activist for people with disabilities. Over the period of the next 4 minutes, she's going to share her story and perspective on the need for connectivity, affordability, and accessibility. Joanne, we're incredibly grateful that you've taken the time to join us today. The floor is yours.
Thanks again for having me, Luke. For having me here in front of everyone. I hope my internet keeps up because we're currently putting in fiber broadband and it's been a disaster, to be honest. I was born with a very rare condition known as trichoepithelioma, meaning I was born without all of my limbs. So I'm only one of 7 people in the world born with this condition. So I suppose in a way it makes me a little bit unique. There's no medical reason as to why I was born this way, but I am delighted to say I have never
we might be experiencing some slight technical difficulties, but as soon as we can connect with the speaker as well as with Luke, we can continue our conversation. We are grateful, of course, for the technology, but I think we're also experiencing some of the challenges that we also would like to address. But in mentioning that, I would like to start with you, Honorable Minister of ICT, Ms. Paula Ingabire. Joanne was largely going to speak about the digital connectivity, bringing a host of opportunities, particularly to people living with disabilities and young people. However, during the pandemic, there were a lot of challenges that persisted in terms of affordability of services within and devices and inclusivity. What are some of the key lessons that you have learned as a decision maker in moving forward to include for a digital inclusive transformation process?
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Great. I see everyone nodding. Good evening, everyone. I hope you are all enjoying your time here this afternoon, and hope I think there's a lot in store for you for the rest of the evening. But in the interest of time and to really respond to the question that is being asked, when I reflect back and perhaps I'll also focus more on Rwanda's journey in response to what are some of those things, the lessons learned. I think the starting point for everything that we're talking about today and for the next 2 weeks or so is having a very strong and clear vision on what you want to achieve. Now, for Rwanda, 22 years ago, this was a deliberate decision that we made to put digital at the center of everything that we do as a country. Now, earlier in the opening ceremony, whether it was the speech from the Right Honorable Prime Minister, whether it's the speech from our Minister of Youth and Culture, but also the speech, the remarks that Doreen Bogdan shared, I think there's one thing that all of them echoed, which is really the asset that we have as a global family, which is our young people. Now, that for us was very clear that our people, our young people, were an asset and were going to be part and parcel of the journey that we take as a country to really leapfrog the various stages of development. But beyond just having that strong vision and clear vision of what we wanted, we also knew that we can't do it alone. And that's why partnerships were very critical. When I think all of us have quoted numerous statistics this afternoon, even the days to come, we'll be looking at various statistics. But one thing is going to be similar across the board. No one has done it on their own. There's been tremendous partnerships across the board with governments, with the private sector, to really ensure that whether it's the connectivity gaps that we're talking about, those that have been, people have been able to bridge over time, whether it's the usage gaps that we're looking at, it's not a one-man show, but rather the power of coming together and really closing on these gaps. So partnerships is the first thing. You also picked on, affordability. And I think when you look at the distinct gap between the percentage of people that are living in areas of coverage versus those that are using and benefiting from this broadband coverage, the key thing that stands out on why we have that big gap on usage is really affordability of devices, affordability of the services as well, the broadband services. The other thing is also around content, local content in the local language, but also what is really going to make the difference between any young person in this room choosing to buy a smartphone or not. And maybe for young people, and the majority of us will be very comfortable to buy a smartphone. It's trendy, it's the thing to do. But even for older generations, what is going to be that reason why they make a decision between buying $100 smartphone and a $40 feature phone? And it's the content, it's the services they're going to be able to access, but most importantly, it has to be affordable and how you can bundle it with the multiple services. And lastly, what I wanted to share, because what we're discussing today is really around bridging the digital divide. As policymakers, we all have the best of intentions, which is connecting more people. But when you're not deliberate to think about what are those digital divide examples, whether it's from a gender perspective, we did hear about youth being the digital nomads, but the reality is that you'll find more male youth connected than more female youth. So you also have to think about it from a gender perspective in the policies that we build, in the partnerships that we create. How are we being cognizant of that? You talked about people with disabilities. When we think about the device gap, not every device is going to be a good fit for all kinds of disabilities that you will find. And so it's always important that we're looking at all these digital divide gaps from gender to the demographics, but also to people who are living in rural and urban areas.
Thank you so much, Minister. So essential to, according to Rwanda's experiences, centralizing digitization and development, partnerships, affordability, and seeing the enablers of the divide, and particularly gender mainstreaming and creating that coherence, right? Gender coherence across policies. I'd like to hear from you, Honorable Minister Theophilus. What are the experiences that you have learned during the pandemic, particularly from Namibia, which would be a different region? And we've seen the East African region. Let's learn about the Southern African region as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A very good afternoon to all of you. I'm very happy to be here at this summit that's not only trying to ensure that young people become part of the conversation where solutions are concerned, but for us to really see the role that young people have to play in ensuring that we build a future that is digitally inclusive. So Minister Ingambire already spoke about quite honestly about the affordability of data and devices, which is not very different from the Namibian case study as well. And post-pandemic, we see, of course, in terms of the digital divide and the gaps, that has also widened inequalities. We're working, for example, with a statistics agency to look at data to see when young people across the board, whether in rural, urban areas, or even peri-urban areas, in terms of affordability, accessibility, but of devices and data, but more importantly, when they do have the access, how are they using the internet to actually address some of their issues, whether it's around mental health, whether it's information that they're getting around health or any other information to grow their lives? Are they applying for jobs? Are they primarily using it for educational purposes? Are they continuously using the space for entertainment purposes? And I must qualify this, which is important, because post-pandemic, We see many, many young people going online to actually make a living. We see young people, children at some instances, making millions from YouTube, for example. We see the rise in influencers and brands and large brands using them to actually promote products that make a living for these young people. So I think there is a plethora of diversity in terms of the digital transformation we want to achieve, and young people need to be at the center of it. And then secondly, it's around security online. I think particularly around cyberbullying, issues around hate speech, issues around general harmful content online, that really I think policy should take a center stage. But beyond that, it's policy that should be co-created by young people. And I say this as a young deputy minister, because I understand the complexities in the generation, our generation, that is able to have access to these online platforms and the harms that come with it. So of course, in Namibia, it's not very different. Post-pandemic, we're trying to build a more inclusive digital space, taking cognizant of the future of work where young people are concerned, because unfortunately, although the many benefits that come with the internet and automation and digital transformation, there is still some negatives around job security and protection of young people's rights online. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister of Namibia. And I think it was an important key element to share around cybersecurity, but also taking note of the young people that live in different areas, urban, peri-urban, and rural areas, of course, helping to bridge the digital divide and also reducing inequalities in that process, particularly if you think of the future of work and the digital economy. From a macro perspective, BTD Director, what do you think? How do you think young people can sincerely engage in policy influencing and policy making processes? And how can we change the current structural divide that we have in the world?
Can you, there we go. Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I think the fact that we're all gathered here physically and remotely is testament to the fact that young people do want to be engaged and participate in their digital future. And as you just mentioned, we really do need to put young people at the center of digital transformation. It's their future. So I think what we need to be doing is creating platforms like this one, and also ensuring that young people have a means to engage and participate in those platforms. I think the second point, and I mentioned this in my remarks before, is that my generation needs to listen. We need to be better listeners. So I think that that also is quite important for decision makers and for policymakers. I also think it's important to note when you mentioned, for example, the co-creation in terms of policy, this event, the call to action, which we'll be launching at the end, the program sessions, it was all co-created, which is quite unique, I would say, for the ITU, which for those of you that are not familiar with the ITU, we have a reputation as an organization that's 157 years old to be quite old. And I think that this event is really a sort of turning point for us. It's not a one-off that we're going to conclude Saturday and we're done. This is actually the beginning. It's a beginning of a conversation, a dialogue, and it's the beginning of real commitment, I think, by the ITU, not just to include young people, but to bring them to the table and ensure that their voices are heard.
Thank you, Doreen, Bogdan, Martin. That being said, young people, as you shared, that this is a space in which young people can be included in policy changing processes. So I would like to open the floor for 2 questions from the audience. Young people, here's your chance. If there's anyone with a burning question for the panelists or even a comment, I'll be taking 2 from the floor. Oh, there's one right here on the right. If we can have a roving mic for her. Please state your name and the country that you come from and ask your question.
Thank you. My name is Doreen and I'm from Rwanda. Um, First of all, thank you for inviting us and for such an insightful event. So a lot of words were said during the summit, including inclusivity, safety, creativity, and digital technology. One word that stood out for me was safety. So as the UN Youth Envoy, Yamata, sorry for the pronunciation, mentioned that we need to create an environment where create a safe environment where anyone can connect. So my question is, what strategy can you advise for the youth in order to create such an environment without hindering or compromising one's freedom of speech? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Doreen. Can we have a second question? Okay, we have one on the far down with the black.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you once again for the opportunity. My name is Victoria and I'm from Cameroon. So my question is, what are the partnership opportunities that exist between the government stakeholders and youth leaders or youth enterprises that want to engage in digital literacy projects? Thank you.
Thank you, Victory. I think we can have our panel answer both questions, maybe Doreen to Doreen's question. Joking. But Doreen and Victory's. Thank you.
Thank you. And I always love meeting Doreens because I haven't met many Doreens. So it's nice to meet you, Doreen. So I think it's important when we think about safety, security, that we remember that we ourselves can do things to better protect ourselves. We understand that having good cyber hygiene, having the necessary digital skills, that goes a long way in actually protecting yourself. So I think on a personal level, each of us can do something to better protect ourselves. Of course, on the government level, we encourage countries to put in place national cybersecurity strategies to be prepared. We do cyber drills. So there's many things that we can offer as an institution. And if I could also touch quickly on the second point about opportunities in terms of partnerships, a great example of something that we launched during the pandemic, where we saw that connecting people was not enough. The skills piece was critical because the connectivity couldn't be leveraged to actually be meaningful. And so we launched a series of digital transformation centers where we have trained tens of thousands of young people in digital literacy. Thank you.
Let me chime in here and I'll keep mine very brief since Doreen has picked on something, but just to respond to Doreen's question, the other Doreen's question. And by the way, Doreen, you'll find hundreds of Doreens in Rwanda, so we probably should organize something, a meetup for you. But it's a very good question, Doreen. I think when we're talking about safety and security, it's really the principles, the way you behave online. I think about how you behave in real person, in person. What are some of those principles or attitude and behavior that you should still be able to have when you're online? With digital technologies, social media, I think everyone has been given an opportunity to really freely express their views, which is a good thing. But just like anything, there's always risks, but there's also benefits. And for the young people in the room, and much as Doreen is the one who asked the question, I think when we're engaging online, while we want to really ensure that the freedom of speech is still there, can it be done respectfully? what you're going to send, I think I like to say, you will find many ways of saying the same thing if you're intentional about it. But if you're not, and you just wake up and everything as it runs in your head, you want to put it online, what we always have to remember, and this is just not to the youth, it's to everyone, is that everything that we do online becomes our digital identity. I've seen many times where even when you're going through interviews, most people will check online, what kind of person is this? What do they engage in? And people will know a lot more about yourself than what you've really put on the CV. So while it's important, again, that we, all these tools have encouraged freedom of speech in many ways, I think it's those principles. Doreen did speak about cyber hygiene, doing it respectfully, finding the best way to deliver what you want to say, but in a way that is really not going in many ways to tarnish your reputation. And I think you can find it when you're very deliberate and intentional about it. To the question around partnership opportunities, I think for me, there are massive opportunities out there. And I'll share an example of Rwanda where, and the Prime Minister did echo, he did speak to it in his message. Our target over the next 2 years, and this is a target we've had for the last 8 years, but now we have 2 years left, which is until 2024, is to make sure that all our youth in Rwanda are digitally skilled. They have the basic digital literacy skills. And for the adult population, we want to make sure by 2024, which is in exactly 2 years, 60% of them have basic digital literacy. To do that, there are a number of strategies that we've put in place, one being mainstreaming digital literacy as part of the curriculum. But the second strategy, which is where I feel the youth can be involved, is we've created a program we call the Digital Ambassadors Program. And what we do is we hire youth from all corners of the country, give them the tools and the skills so that they can be our ambassadors in the various communities where they can train citizens on basic digital literacy skills. Today, most of our services are provided online. We'll teach them how to go online and self-serve and get a service. And I think this is how the youth can contribute. The third bit, and this is something that ITU has also championed, which is the Girls in ICT program. And this is specific to the young girls in the room and those that are following us online, is that this community of girls in ICT in many countries comes together to really empower fellow young girls and ladies, one, to pursue studies and careers in STEM, but at the same time to contribute to building digital literacy. So I think there are multiple frameworks, multiple models in which the young people can support and work together with various partners in really bridging this digital divide, because like we said, you're the digital natives, you're the people who really get on it quickly, understand it, and it will be easy for you to be great ambassadors in bridging that digital divide. You want to use this?
Hello. Yes. Thank you so much. I just wanted also to give some thoughts on the questions asked by Doreen and the other lady from Cameroon. I forgot her name now. But with the question around safety online and really around not compromising your freedom of speech, and just knowing the right balance of actually engaging online, just to support some of the ideas already shared. I, for example, got onto Facebook when I was 13. And that when I was 13, I knew nothing about Facebook, and I knew nothing about possible dangers on online spaces, especially early on. Nobody taught me how to use Facebook. I navigated the space and found my way around it, and quickly learned about the dangers that come with it, and sort of took steps to see how not to ensure that I give out certain information or make it so obvious about where I live or the places I would be at certain times, and not to bring that risk. So I think then the idea here is to ensure that you continuously learn when you're on the space, when you're on the digital spaces, because many of us, it's self-taught. I mean, we're navigating it as we go. So we need to continuously just learn, relearn and unlearn some of the habits perhaps we thought were okay when we got onto the space first. I know, for example, there's a platform that we might all be familiar with that can get quite savage, but it's our responsibility to ensure that we don't become part of the problem in terms of, making sure that we practice cyber hygiene and others, but also to call out those that are saying harmful things or acting harmfully on online spaces. We need to actively actually call them out and hold them to account. But also secondly, we need to put pressure on governments and big tech companies to have better mechanisms on the platforms that are able to redress harmful speeches, harmful interactions online, so that it becomes a space that can, action can be readily taken at that moment to clear out any bad, hate speech or hate messages on the platforms. And then secondly, around digital literacy, I think the opportunities are immense, as the minister said. I think you just need to start. In Namibia, for example, we believe in collaborative advantage, and we work a lot through public-private partnerships, governments and private sector, young people, entrepreneurs, whatever you call it, in bridging solutions. And the digital literacy area that we work in as a ministry is looking at peer-to-peer learning and teaching. So we have different regional offices across the country, and we teach basic literacy, but we're getting young people who are doing computer science, or young people who are doing IT, or just any young person who has a digital literacy skill they're willing to pass on to another peer to actually have that peer-to-peer learning and teaching. And we see that it's much easier because it's peer-to-peer. The time is shorter. The way things are explained to somebody who does not have any digital literacy skills becomes quite faster because they're learning it from somebody they can relate to and can understand to. So my advice to you is just get on it, start. Don't wait for an opportunity to show up, start. The opportunity will find you on the way. Thank you.
Hello? Can you hear me? Yes, of course you can. Well, first of all, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I'm going to digress a little bit from the question. First, to congratulate and thank all of you young people that have made this possible. You must be proud of yourselves, and you deserve a huge round of applause. Before going to the specific question of cybersecurity that we're going to have, we're probably going to spend a lot of time addressing that at the conference itself. There is something that really caught my attention in the wonderful music that we heard, and it was something that read on the screen: decisions you create affect our state. Together, we stand for you to understand. We are the future, we are the youth. Yes, 50% of the world, the young people, but you are 100% of the future. On that note, it's absolutely essential that this whole youth summit, of course, will not remain as a side event of a very important conference, but a critical first step forward to fully engage the youth in the decision-making process affecting the future of the digital economy, whether it's on cyber, whether it's on fundamental human rights, whether it's on accountability and transparency, whether it's on your right to communicate, and particularly your right to continue becoming innovators and not only users of technology. On that, of course, there's a lot we can do. We sincerely hope, and speaking as Canada, we hope that the WTDC embraces fully the call for action of the Youth Summit and makes it part of the Kigali Action Plan. And we will, of course, encourage the Secretary General in a resolution to transmit the Kigali Action Plan and the youth call to action to the Plenipotentiary Conference. So basically, those are my words. We are extremely proud as Canada because we were able to contribute modestly for the participation of some 26 people, 12 of them young women. Gender and youth will continue to be one of the key priorities of Canada. And of course, cybersecurity, which is a key issue. And I think that collectively, we will be able to address the issue. But again, Thank you, the youth. We are here to listen to you. Prenez la parole, speak up. We are here to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And as you said, prenez la parole. Just to connect back to Luke online and see if there have been any interventions in the online space. Luke, can you hear me? Are you there? And what are the young people saying online?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Roberto. There's a lot of talk online about some of these key themes that are emerging. And I think what we've seen over here on the online chat are a lot of suggestions coming out from young people, which is what we like to see. A lot of discussion on the importance of digital connectivity and literacy, and also harking right back to the opening ceremony of the summit, some discussion of ethical new technologies, also the impact of digitalization on environment as well. So a lot of the threads that you guys are talking about in person have been echoed over here. So yeah, so far so good.
Thank you so much, Luke. I'd like to now give the floor to Precious Agacheta, the Youth Engagement Association of the African Union, to share her intervention.
Sorry, everyone. I was struggling to turn on my camera. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, depending on where you're joining us from, those there present in Kigali. I'm here in Addis Ababa, and it's a sunny evening here, but glad to join, thanks to digitization. Regarding your question, first of all, I'll start off by saying, as Africa and the world at large, we've recovered from the impact of COVID-19, but then we cannot also forget the impact it's had on our lives and livelihoods of young people, especially in terms of widening the digital divide. There's been growing digital and socioeconomic divide, and it has continued to leave a lot of people ostracized and some even deprived. But then the pandemic has also created opportunities for increased investments and opportunities for digital inclusion. For example, if Africa is to take its place in the fourth industrial revolution, e-commerce and digital financial inclusion will be basic enablers and will need to leverage innovation, as well as inclusive digital interventions to continuously develop. Now, while we want to create opportunities, we also want to realize that what is essential is bridging the digital divide. The expansion of digital financing, as well as mechanisms put in place, will continue to enable digital inclusion in Africa. With the development of Momo, M-Pesa, as well as other digital devices, it's clear that there's a huge opportunity to bridge the digital divide and cater for the unbanked and the underbanked. Now, according to IMF, Africa needs to create 20 million jobs every year for the next 20 years if we're to cater for the continent's youth demography. Now, economic connectivity, integration, inclusion, they are basic foundations for the success of this. Now, based on my experience working and promoting youth engagement, especially working with the African Union Commission, I believe that governments, service providers, digital players can foster access and use of inclusive digital services by increasing access and inclusivity. That is by ensuring that there is access and affordability of technology and internet services while ensuring connectivity. Second is, as highlighted by the Honorable Minister of ICT for Rwanda, Her Excellency Paula, there is need for multi-stakeholder partnerships. So it's essential for all players and stakeholders to come together and commit to a knowledge transfer and exchange to ensure digital inclusivity. And then the third point I'd like to mention is investment in data. So access to data has continued to be a challenge in bridging the access to digital services for everyone, especially young people on the continent. So digital transformation backed by data-driven solution will allow governments as well as stakeholders and partners to prioritize areas of interventions as well as interest for increased impact. So here are a few of things I think that we as young people, governments, stakeholders, service providers can do to foster access and use of inclusive digital services for everyone.
Thank you so much, Precious, and thank you for sharing the different interventions that are happening in the African Union, but also sharing some potential golden nuggets that we might see in the next days to come, particularly with regards to partnerships and enhancing partnerships structurally across the globe. I would now like to connect with Joanne online to see if she can share her earlier intervention.
Hello. Can everyone hear me or no?
Hi, Joanne. We can
Okay,
see
Luke
and
can hear
hear
me.
you.
So. Okay, I'm gonna go, I'm not saying as quickly as I can, but I'm gonna go fast in case it cuts out again. So sincere apologies. So I was basically born without my limbs, a condition known as total amelia, meaning I was born without all my limbs. So I'm only one of 7 people in the world born with this condition. So I suppose in a way it makes me a little bit unique. There is no medical reason as to why I was born this way, but I am delighted to say I have never allowed my disability to hold me back. And I'm continually striving to create a world that is inclusive, not just for able-bodied people, but for people with disabilities also. Technology has been a huge part of my life. I know at the moment we're currently struggling with the broadband, but away from broadband and different digital technologies that we're familiar with, for me, one of the most key pieces of technological equipment I've ever owned is probably my wheelchair.
It seems we may have lost her again, but I think she can share her key messages with us, and then we'll find a way to innovatively share her intervention online. And I think Luke will assist with that. I would like to just share now, moving on to the, sorry, yes, Doreen.
Sorry, before we leave, Joanne, and I hope that we can actually connect with her. I had the privilege of meeting her back in 2015 for Girls in ICT Day. And as she was telling us, she was born with something called total amelia syndrome, which means she was born with no limbs. And she's actually produced a documentary called No Limbs, No Limits. And I think she's an incredible example of the way that she was able to use technology to thrive. I mean, she's an incredible sports reporter now. I've tried to follow her professional studies and now her career, and she's really an inspiration. And I hope that you'll be able to hear her story. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doreen, and we'll find a way to ensure that her intervention is shared throughout the program. I'd like to turn to you again, sir. Young people have told us that they want more opportunities to engage and be part of the policy making process, So why do you think youth engagement and policy making process at a national level in international organizations is key to shaping digital transformation and building an inclusive digital future?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very important question, but I think that it can be answered from the beginning, referring to a concept that we call multi-stakeholders, which is not only the public sector, it is the private sector, it's civil society, academia, and particularly the young people. Proud to tell you that the Canadian delegation to the WTDC includes 2 young women aged 22 and 23. We were interns at the ITU and have been active participants in all this process of the Youth Summit. But it is essential that the whole process of engaging, for example, I've been to the ITU, I don't know for how many years, decades. And I am one of the few that still remember resolutions by number. That can tell you how long I have been participating in this. We need young people. We need new ideas. We need to make them part of the discussion because they are part of the solution. And it is essential at the national level that we create mechanisms by which we constantly involve the young in the preparatory process of governments coming to conferences like the one on development. And by that, I mean having them participate in the meetings. We have a process in Canada, which is called the Canadian Preparatory Committees for ITU. And everyone is invited. Public sector, private sector, civil society, academia, you name it. So it is critically important also to clarify for them what we are, what we do, because they think about the UN and the ITU created in 1865, and we have 3 sectors. Something else has to be done, and I think that the young people here have already sent us a very clear message. When you look and read the action, the plan call for action, it is very clear. And I think that we need to collectively work on ensuring that we have more young people coming in our delegations, and of course making part of the decision-making process. Because at the end of the day, as I said before, they may be 50% of the population, but they're 100% the future.
Definitely.
May
So,
I chime in there?
yes, definitely.
I think absolutely agree with the sentiment, and I think we need to go beyond that. I am a testimony of a decision by a president to appoint a young person to parliament at the age of 23 and a deputy minister. And not more than a year later, he appointed another young person to be a member of parliament at the age of 22. So these are deliberative actions by world leaders, or possible actions by world leaders to bring young people in, because it's one thing for us to sit at a conference like this and participate as young people, but it's absolutely different to sit at the decision-making table where you're actually making decisions. And we need to have more and more young people to actually be able to have the power to make those decisions. And I think this is basically a call to governments and international organizations to say the participation of young people should just, in some instances, not be cosmetic, that you come, you listen, you attend, but that we get into the system, so that when decisions are being made and policies are being co-created, young people are at the table, and they can be, I can be held accountable for something I create because I'm a young person, and I want to create something for the young people, and they can hold me accountable because I represent them at the table. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Oh, yes, one more.
Just a quick factoid, just to pick up on what you were saying. Only 3% of parliamentarians are under the age of 30. So we have a long way to go, but I'm completely with you. Thank you.
So I was once young, not anymore. But I think much as these 3 days are really going to be about listening and understanding what needs to be done, I also wanted to give a few parting shots, which is really a reflection. While Emma's story, Minister Emma's story, may be a unique one, where she was, appointed in her role at age 23, I don't want the young people to go out of this room thinking everyone has to be a minister or a parliamentarian to make a difference. I see people nodding, so I'm assuming you all agree. And I think you don't even have to be a leader to be in politics. So back to the point of partnerships, it's really understanding, and all of us reflecting today and saying, in my capacity, in whatever I'm doing, how do I make a difference? So that we don't leave here, everyone thinking, how do I become the next minister? Because that's not the only way you can make a difference, especially when we're talking about, bridging the digital divide. There was a young person from Cameroon who asked, what can we do? And I love the question, because you don't have to be a minister, you don't have to be a member of parliament, you don't have to be the next SG or the BDT director. I think even in your communities, in whether you bring together the youth in your communities, in your schools, you can make a difference. And that is the definition of being a leader, regardless of a title. And I hope that as we continue to reflect on what the role of the youth can be going forward, and Doreen, thank you so much for really creating such a platform where we can hear from the young people, but where they can also be part of the decision making. They can also be part of finding solutions and not just waiting for everything to be done for them. So these 3 days should be a great opportunity and platform for all of us to say, what can we do where we are?
Yes. I just want to pick up on what the minister had just said, because this is very important. We have 4 more days of the summit, and then we have 2 weeks of the WTDC. We have to ensure that this is not remembered as a one-off, wonderful event in which hundreds of, no, thousands of young people came to this beautiful place, had this wonderful event, and nothing happened. We need to ensure that all the hard work and success you have achieved and will continue to achieve is reflected in the WTDC, and that we continue working together forward. To that effect, I'm very happy to announce that Canada is ready to come to the table. We're already discussing this with the ITU, with the BDT, to put some money on the table to see what is it that we need to do with other partners to ensure that this wonderful initiative becomes a regular event in the world of the ITU.
Thank you so much, panelists, and thank you. So we're hearing that Canada's placing financial commitments towards bridging the digital divide. On live, we're live streaming. So I do want to open the floor again to two young people, because we're trying. Our aim is to shift the current structures of digital divide and influencing policy making. So is there any young person with a burning, okay, I see a hand all the way far back. I can only take two. What do I do? I see five. I see one hand at the back. I am so sorry. I'll go with you. I'm really sorry to everyone else. But we can also place our interventions online. So we can start from the back and then we'll come back to front.
Thank you very much. My name is Barnabas Madogwe from Nigeria. My question goes thus. There's no doubt that universities have a role to play in enhancing digital literacy. So are there partnerships targeted towards universities around the world to further aid digital literacy in Africa? Thank you very much.
Okay. And I remember the one from the back.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Hatim. I'm from Morocco. Thank you for everyone here, and thank you for all the young people in Rwanda also for their hospitality. When I have read about the intergenerational dialogues, what I was hoping as well, and I think many people around the, present here at the conference, is to have, to come up with an output on how we can bridge this generational gap between young people and elders. And I think we in Africa, and I think maybe I'm speaking on behalf of all the African youth, is that we are blessed that we are Africans. Why? Because we live in obstacles. And I'm going to say why we are blessed, because thanks to these obstacles, we have bring about our creativity to come up and goes around these obstacles. So it's not a matter about having or giving the youth the opportunity to to show their skills, because we can create our own opportunities, from with ourselves. But it's rather to bridge this generational gap and to make sure that the elders understand that we cannot face the 21st century issues with tools and the mentality of the 16th centuries. We have the creativity, they have the wisdom. We need to work together so we can face the 21st century issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hakeem. So just to expand a bit on Barnabas's question with universities, also consider tertiary and vocational education institutions as well. And yes, as Hakeem has shared, Africa is a leapfrogging continent because of the creativity of its young people.
I would even expand it further and say it's just not restricted to universities. It's every education establishment, all the way from, primary. And why do I say this? Together with the ITU and UNICEF, they've launched the GIGA initiative around school connectivity. And Rwanda has been one of the first countries that, have benefited from a pilot of school connectivity programs. And what does it look like? what has happened is that for about 63 schools in Rwanda that have been selected, we were able to deploy broadband infrastructure, equip them with devices, but also digital literacy training. But that's not enough. I think what we've seen as a good success story, and back to your question of universities and you know, all kinds of education establishments, is that once you connect a school with sufficient connectivity, you connect a community. We've already seen it even with the pilot of 63 schools. The communities and households that live around these schools are already benefiting from this infrastructure and investment that has already been done. Now, the other thing is that why education establishments are so central is that beyond even digital literacy, I mean, you're talking about building apps, solutions, edtech programs that will even further promote the hybrid learning model that, you know, we're now currently the whole world is transitioning towards. And so, yes, universities will invest heavily in the research part, in thinking through what are those solutions that are so critical to put in the hands of the people to drive digital literacy, to drive uptake of edtech solutions. But I think it's also important to think about the fact that once you connect a school, you connect a community, but you're also grooming, the ambassadors that when they go back home, when they go back in their communities, they're able to pass on the skills and knowledge that they've been provided with.
All right, thank you so much. I would like to connect now with Luke online and see the interventions that we may have on the online space, and he'll take it from there.
Fantastic.
Over
Thank
to
you
you,
so
Luke.
much. Thank you so much, Mabato. Lots of interesting discussion again online. A lot of it's still centered around this issue of digital connectivity. So particularly, we've got a lot of people thinking and suggesting really fantastic ideas on how we can include people in rural areas and all around the world. We've also got a lot of discussion on some of the dangers of particularly the internet and particularly social media. So false online jobs is something that's being talked about, as well as misinformation and disinformation, which I'm sure will be things that we talk about this weekend. Also, excitingly, I've just seen that Joanne has rejoined as well. So if you can hear us and are able to speak, Joanne, we'd love it if you could give it another go with your address.
Yeah, so I've actually moved into a boardroom. As you can see, my two compatriots who are now deciding to leave. So I hope everyone can hear me okay. You can give me a thumbs up, Luke, if you can. Perfect. So I have no idea where I got cut out the last time, but I think at this stage you're all pretty aware that I was born without my limbs and have a rare condition known as total amelia. So I suppose I was referencing technology for me and how important technology is for me away from digital spaces and everything that's going on. And I suppose for me, one of the big things that I found was my wheelchair. So I suppose one day my family sat me down in front of our old computer, and before long I was banging away on it with my chin, nose, and what I like to call my left hand. I played games that helped me to learn my ABCs and my small words, but curious as anyone else, I then began to explore other ways and means of expressing myself. And just after my second birthday, I was given my first ever wheelchair to help me gain my independence and travel wherever I want to go. This was the key that would unlock my true independence because, let's face it, life is about living and we all want quality of life that is acceptable to all of us. Nobody could have ever imagined how it'd be possible for me to drive this car, but I did. In August 1998, my first set of wheels arrived home, and before long, I was whizzing around in and out of the house without a care in the world. I had my legs and I now had my freedom. I could go left, right, stop, swing around, moving forwards and backwards. I swerved in and out of the doors, the kitchen, the living room, and the garden, taking bits of chair, bits of wall, bits of ankle with me wherever I went. But my car has allowed me to run, walk, and achieve all things otherwise impossible. It even has a horn to let people know I'm coming. So there you go. I'm also a sports writer and a journalist with the Irish Times here in Ireland, the national newspaper. And I suppose technology is important in terms of how I write, how I connect, and be in tune with the different sports news across the world. At the moment, I can type up to 42 words a minute with a pen in my mouth and banging away on the keys like Woody Woodpecker. And I was taught how to do that when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I suppose it's probably too early to talk about the effects of the pandemic, and I suppose its impact on digital connectivity as well. And I suppose so many lives and so many people were destroyed because of the built inequalities that exist today. I suppose technology is one key example. As you could probably guess, I live in a very rural part of Ireland. Funnily enough, I'm in an e-centre, so you'd think the internet would be a bit better, but it clearly isn't. But I suppose when school and work and everything went online, many had to renegotiate with their broadband providers here in Ireland. I suffered some of those inequalities because significant parts of rural Ireland still lack broadband infrastructure to support remote learning or working. This is obviously due to a lack of infrastructure and in Ireland a capital city-centred approach from governments old and new. With poor internet and Wi-Fi, for the first time in 10 years since appearing at the United Nations, I suppose I was officially voiceless. I couldn't attend conferences, I couldn't, virtually keep the discussion going and moving forward how access for people with disabilities can be improved. People in minorities have worked so hard for equal access into employment and education, and all of a sudden these opportunities were cut off. I think what is required globally right now is investment in digital infrastructure and improvements in digital access that can eliminate unfair disparities based on race, income, and geography. As we move into the future, broadband, I think, will be as vital to social and economic advancements as motorways, electricities, and dams were definitely way back when. Digital access, in my opinion, should be considered a human right in the same manner as a universal healthcare. I suppose the other thing that I think we definitely need to work on as well is for people who are building technology and trying to create a digital connectivity to understand and to stop assuming when designing that the products, that everyone is already a high-tech level skill. So many things are blocked or intimidating to use because they're designed for people who are tech orientated first. Simply giving people the right equipment or access to what you need is not enough. The solutions have to involve human intervention, commitment, and care. What is needed now are intensive, long-term support networks to help people acquire the digital know-how that they currently lack at the moment. As great and all as technology is, at the end of the day, it is about people helping people. I do appreciate everyone's patience with me, and hopefully the connection will actually work at some stage. They are currently rolling out a national broadband plan, and I think that was the problem here in Ireland. But I really appreciate your patience, and thanks so much for having me. And the discussions earlier, from what I got to listen to, were so incredible and so inspiring. So I really appreciate you having me, and thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Joanne, for such amazing words. And well done for braving the e-centre internet. And let's hope that your innovativeness carries over to the rest of the weekend. Just before we conclude, as you know, we're joined today by 70 hubs virtually, and they've been formed in universities, innovation centres, and schools around the world. And while we've been having this discussion online and in person, they've also been having parallel discussions in every corner of the globe. And I'd be very interested to hear what they think, and I'm sure you would be too. And I'd like to invite Miss Julia Stevens, a consultant for the ITU, to just spend a couple of minutes to report on some of the key messages coming out of those hubs. And once she's spoken, we'll turn the floor to just a couple of the members of the hubs to provide a minute update on what they've been talking about as well. So Julia, if you're on the call, over to you.
I am here. Let's see if we can get the mic working. Can we get this mic on? There we go. Everyone can hear me now. Fantastic. So it's been so interesting to hear from all of our guest speakers. And I think it's really important to mention that, over the next 2 days, we are going to be having discussions, we're going to be having debates, and we're going to be having dialogues on all of these different conversations with each other, which is exactly what our hubs have been doing for the last week. So as we've heard, we have 70 hubs that have all been connecting from over 53 countries, having discussions, having debates, hosting events, all these types of exciting things on all the big questions that we're going to be asking ourselves over the next 2 days of the summit. Lots of the insights that they shared with us really were about what the changes that they wanted to see were in their local communities, but there were some common themes that kind of stepped out from their discussion. So I'd be interested to hear from you guys as well, whether these themes sit true for you thinking about your local communities. So the first thing that lots of the young people, I think more than 5,000 young people, in fact, shared around the world, was that we needed to think about ways for young people to have access to, I guess, mentors, both, I guess, more experienced mentors, but also peer mentors, as an opportunity to kind of learn and share together about how we can create change. So that was number one. I'm not sure if everyone else agrees with that. Do we need more opportunities for mentors? Yeah. The second thing that young people talked about was a need for us to really think about inclusion, okay? So how can we make sure that when we are acting as change makers, we're including absolutely every single young person in that discussion? And the last and final thing that was, I guess, a kind of a bit of a common theme was a discussion that they shared around the need for more collaboration and opportunities for young people to share ideas around businesses. So looking at how we can use the private sector to create change in advancing the kind of sustainable development goals. So three things: mentorship and finding opportunities for role models, and sustainable business collaboration and sharing ideas and exchanges. Now, I believe we are going to hear live from a couple of our hubs in India and in Argentina, I know. So I'll hand the floor back to Luke to see if we can connect with our hubs to hear more from them.
Thank you so much, Julia. So yeah, absolutely. We actually have 3 hubs online. So we're going to have a hub from India, hub from Argentina, and from Cameroon. So we're just going to hear for 1 minute each, just a couple of the key messages that have come through in the discussion today. So Siddhant, I saw you've just turned your video on, so we'll go over to you. And for India, so Siddhant, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Luke, and thank you, everyone. First of all, I want to thank the ITU for providing me the opportunity to speak at such a big stage. They truly believe that youth are change makers, and they're actually showing it by allowing us to participate in this. So we come across the digital divide in the information age, like the socioeconomic status of people, the knowledge gap that they have. These things exacerbate our response to us bridging that gap. As we have seen, not only is there a divide in each country, there is a global divide with respect to developed countries and developing countries. Also, we have seen that at the rate at which the GDP has been scaling, the divide is not getting better, which means that there is something else other than the socioeconomic status of people that is affecting it. And we believe that's where youth come in. That is the knowledge gap. For example, of India, like the government just launched UPI, which is a peer-to-peer transaction, but the people in rural India are not willing to accept it. Not because they don't have the money to buy those things, but because they believe that they will be defrauded, or they do not have the trust in the system. So that is the knowledge that we have to provide. And we do, as I am from Indian Institute of Management, our social media handles, and we actually go for volunteering. We go to schools, we teach underprivileged children who do not have that many teachers in their schools. So that way we help bridge the gap. And that's where youth will go and actually call for action, actually go and talk to their local leaders about what is the issues that are concerning them regarding the digital divide. They can advocate for policies, they can be sensitization campaigns, nonprofits and volunteering. And finally, the most important thing, that is education. Education is the only way that we can bridge this digital divide. So again, I want to thank you all.
Thank you so much, Siddhant, for such powerful words. Milagros, I'd like to come to you in Argentina to see if that tallies with your experience. How much of what Siddhant was talking about follow the patterns of your own discussions, or were there different issues that came to the fore for you guys?
Hola. No sé si, sí. Sí, se escucha, no sé si está funcionando la traducción. Sí, nosotros en nuestro país vemos mucho lo que es, digamos, la brecha entre, bueno, los que tienen más y los que tienen menos, más en estos años. Después de la pandemia afectó mucho a nuestro país, lo que es la cuestión económica. Y bueno, muchas personas ahora se están dedicando más a lo que es el área de sistemas o de las telecomunicaciones porque pueden tener empleos que ganan en dólares, digamos, ganan dinero de afuera y le da más posibilidades para poder resarcirse económicamente. De todas formas, yo lo que consideraba hoy para mi intervención era hablar un poco de lo que es la brecha de, idiomática. Yo estuve dentro de muchas culturas que tenemos en nuestro país, grupos minoritarios, que no pueden acceder a la información, ni siquiera, no te digo de tecnologías de la información, sino también a la educación o a servicios públicos por la brecha que existe en el idioma, porque ellos hablan o sus idiomas típicos y no pueden acceder al idioma oficial, mucho menos a lo que son las tecnologías de la información. Entonces, una que había pensado era el desarrollo, como ingeniero en sistemas, de alguna aplicación que nos permita aprender digamos, que puedan aprender el idioma o que puedan conectarse, digamos, que sea una especie de traducción o que puedan, digamos, aprender el idioma oficial del país o a su vez, digamos, nosotros como hispanohablantes aprender su idioma. Eso yo creo que puede ser aplicado en muchas etnias minoritarias. Bueno, justamente me pasaba que estaba hablando con una chica de Irán que ya estaba teniendo problemas para entender toda esta exposición, porque digamos que ella me dijo que habla en persa, no en árabe. Entonces me dijo, la verdad que no estoy pudiendo entender, estoy teniendo problemas. Entonces podemos ver esa brecha en muchas de las cosas. Así que, bueno, esta era mi contribución y mi idea para este foro.
Thank you so much. And finally, I'd like to turn our attention to Cameroon and to Afapezi. So Afapezi, for the final thoughts from the hubs today, we'd love to hear in just 1 minute, what were the key takeaways for you guys in Cameroon?
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving us the floor. I'm Afopezi Moses from Cameroon, and we are here from the National Advanced School of Post and Telecommunications. And from our discussions, the discussions we had on making the world more connected, we think as youths from Cameroon, the first thing we have to do is go in and look for what are the problems, what are people facing all over the world. Why is the world not so connected? Why do we have people around the world not still connected up to date? And equally for the problems of how we should make the world connected, we from the statistics gotten from ECOFIN in 2016, Sub-Saharan Africa happens to be the area with the least number of people connected around the world, and it's often due to the problem of low power failures. You have power failures in these areas. So that's one of the reasons why people often are not connected in those areas of the world. And equally, when we look at the problem on how our proposals and actions which are to be taken by the United Nations and the International Telecommunications Union, we think the International Telecommunications Union should simply go sensitizing people around the world on how to be more connected. And equally, they should look for in knowing which parts of the world are not really connected. And we as students from SUBTIC, our proposals are just in using biodegradable refugees in order to create more electricity, in providing electricity all around the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So certainly 3 very different experiences, but united by a number of common themes. And that's been replicated in the chat today online, but also in some of the questions asked from the audience. The clear message for me from this panel is that this week's summit is a chance for young people to showcase their visions for a better world and the actions that have begun so far to achieve it. We've begun that in full force with this intergenerational dialogue, and I cannot wait for the next few days. I'd like to send a thank you to all our speakers, all our participants online and in person. And to conclude this panel, I'd love to turn the floor back to you, Mabato, for some final words.
Thank you so much, Luke. So to the panelists, I'd like for you to share one sentence of your personal call to action for engagement of youth.
I will profit and say 2 things. One, expecting the youth here to tell us at the WTDC what is it that we need to do because we're listening. And secondly, having listened to the intervention by Cameroon, there is this need to address the issue of rural and remote communities. And in speaking for the Americas region, that includes Aboriginal communities. And in that context, there is a critical element associated with that, is what kind of content in which kind of languages. So again, thank you to all of you, the youth here, because this has been an extraordinary experience. Thank you.
So my one sentence is, don't wait for the future, be present, be heard today.
I think I've been spending too much time with Minister Paula because I was going to say something similar. You are the present, you are the future, and step up, use digital technologies and make a positive change that can help make the world we want. Thank you.
I think my call to action is for governments and international institutions to support young people and their efforts and to ensure that they co-create the solutions that we seek for the digital space and the digital future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you as well to the audience and the different interventions that we received from Barnabas to Hakeem, Doreen and Victory. Thank you for all the participants and youth as well. As we have different call to actions, let's remember strengthening the digital divide includes an intersectional lens of strengthening the cultural rights of Indigenous persons, linguistic rights, people with disabilities, economic justice, climate justice, different social political issues as well. I'll now move on to the MC to give us guidance for the rest of the day.
Thank you very much. A round of applause. That was a beautiful conversation. We got to hear from people all over the world, and we are indeed connected. Isn't that beautiful? Thank you very much. I think you can take back your seats, and I'm about to give some announcements. I think it's better when you're in your seats. Thank you very much, Mabato. I think this time I got it right. Yes, I was listening. I was listening, and thank you very much, Luke, also online. Now, first of all, how are you? How are you feeling? Muraho. Oh, the energy is there, but come on. Muraho. Muraho neza. That is beautiful. Well, it's been a beautiful day. I'm sure you picked 1 or 2 things to go home with, but we are not done yet. I don't think I can end this session without announcing something to you. Now, I want to take this opportunity to share the voting for the eWest Iconathon. It is open, and I think they can help me and put it on the screen. Now, the Iconathon is an icon design competition to signify the take back of electronic waste. Our top 3 icon finalists are here. Do we have you? Could you please stand and just wave so we can see you, because we're about to vote for you. You can see them. Where are you? Oh yes, come on, wave. We're amazing. Where are you? We have the top 3. We have 2 here. Am I missing the third one? Where is the third one? Where are you? You can stand and we see you. Oh yes, there you are. Ladies and gentlemen, look at them. These are the people that you're going to be voting for. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, they made 3 unique icons. Beautiful indeed. And they are here, and the voting is open now. You are going to see a QR code. You see that it's closing at 10 a.m., 4th of June. You're going to see a QR code. Oh, by the way, you could scan it directly, or they will show you, they will bring some QR codes for you to start voting, even during the dinner, anytime, anywhere. Please remember to vote for them. Now, once you're done voting, you can use your laptop, you can use your phone, you can use anything you think that can scan and vote. And please give them a chance. Now, we'll be announcing the winner during the closing ceremony, and I know you'll be happy for them, right? Oh yes, that's the spirit. Thank you very much. Before I end, I'd love to make another small announcement. Now, we have up to 50 to 60 participants that were given fellowships. I know you know yourself. They're about 50 to 60. Now, this is what you're going to do when we are done. Please, somebody called Christine is waiting for you. Now, look for Christine from ITU. Ask anybody to take you at the 4th floor. Sorry, office 4 at the 1st floor. The 4th office, 1st floor. You'll find Christine. She'll welcome you smiling. She has a message for you. All right, another announcement. There are those that were given the overpass. Those that were given the overpass, you have your team leaders. Buses are waiting, and they are ready to take you where you have to go. Now, once this is done, I'm going to ask you to please take the buses, follow your leaders, and as you head back home, I want you to remember why we are here. We need to know who we are and what do we want to do, and did we connect? Somebody said at least walk from this place with at least 10 people that you know that you didn't know. Hey, if you're at number 9, talk to me, I'll be your 10th. Yes, please. Oh, trust me, I'm a network. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to thank you for coming in today. Another session, there is another session. Feel free, take your time, enjoy the moment, enjoy the weather, breathe, stretch, do anything that makes you feel comfortable. At exactly 6:15, or let's say 15 minutes past the hour of 6 p.m., there is a spotlight. Now, in the spotlight, it's like TED Talks kind of format, inspirational, and they're going to be talking to you. And then for the rest of the team, I'll be telling you what's next. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I hope you had a wonderful time, right? Amazing. Thank you very much. My name is Arthur. I was the MC of today. I hope I see you again. Thank you.
Jerusalem, ikayalami, ilondoloze, uhambe nami, zungangishilana. Jerusalem, ikayalami, ilondoloze, uhambe nami, zungangishilana. Dawo yami ayikholana, buso wami awukholana, ilondoloze, zuhambe nami. Dawo yami ayikholana, buso wami awukholana, ilondoloze, zuhambe nami. Ilondoloze, dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami Jerusalema, ikhaya lami